Well, hello, everybody. Welcome, and thank you for this opportunity to address the Arizona Department of Transportation Safety Stand Down Day. Today, I'm going to talk about two subjects: the hazards of lasers against aircraft, and the second one is drone awareness for the general public and everybody that's thinking about flying a drone, or you see somebody flying with a drone. I'm Kerry Grant. I'm president of the Arizona Aviation Safety Advisory Group. We are a 501c3 organization. I'm also a FAA Safety Team lead representative with the Scottsdale FSDO and an assistant professor at aeronautical science up at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. The Arizona Aviation Safety Advisory Group has their own website, asagaz.org, and we have a lot of links to FAA.gov and FAAsafety.gov on those websites. Subject I've been very concerned about for quite some time and made quite a few presentations about it, and it comes up in just about all of the seminars that I give, are the hazards of laser strikes against aircraft and the effect that they have on the pilot. If you are the recipient of a laser strike, make sure you report it immediately to the air traffic control facility that you're working with, whether it's a tower, approach control in the Phoenix or Tucson markets, or Albuquerque or Los Angeles centers that controls a good portion of our airspace. And they will call 911 and get law enforcement agents out there responding as quickly as possible. Our laser strikes, you anticipate Phoenix being the largest metropolitan area in the state, does receive the bulk of our laser illumination events. Tucson is second, but surprisingly, Prescott is not far behind. There are almost no quadrants of our state that have been immune from this. Fortunately, Prescott Valley Police Department made an arrest last April on an individual that was shining lasers from airliners to all the training airplanes up there in the Prescott area. So we hope we're going to be seeing a dramatic drop in the number of laser illumination events up there. From the beginning of January, the calendar year, we've had over 287 laser illumination events. This numbers are actually counted from the fiscal year for the government, and our fiscal year numbers for 2023 from October 1st, if we combine that with what we've had in 2024, we're on track to have over 570 laser illumination events through the month of July. And if this trend continues, we're going to see about a 200% to 300% increase in the number of laser illumination events. This is totally unacceptable, and we have been so concerned about it. We contacted Morgan Lowe, an investigative reporter for Channel 3, Channel 5, and Channel 13 down in the Tucson market. And Morgan agreed to put together an investigative report, which I will share with you now.
Or a fighter jet and suddenly getting blinded by a powerful laser light. That is what is happening more and more often in the skies over Arizona, and aviation safety officials say it is putting lives at risk. Investigative reporter Morgan Lowe looking into this. What these people are doing with, you would think it's just a small beam, but it's not.
Yeah, and this is an example of what the problem is. People are taking little laser pointers like this and they're shining it up like that, and they're pointing it at aircraft. It may seem harmless, but what people don't realize is by the time that little green dot gets up to a cockpit of a plane or a helicopter that's a couple thousand feet in the air, it is much bigger.
We are taxiing down the runway at Deer Valley Airport to show you what this laser pointer looks like from a mile away.
What would this do to your eyesight?
You couldn't. Tell me you can see the runway with that. You can't.
It's a dangerous situation, and it's becoming all too common. Our analysis of Federal Aviation Administration data shows laser strikes increasing on private planes, commercial jets, even Air Force fighter jets.
I fly the F-35.
Lieutenant Colonel Tyler Smith was leading his formation back to Luke Air Force Base one night last fall when a laser struck his cockpit.
It was about 2,000 feet above the ground, and it shined on every one of our aircraft in sequence as we came back to land. It's disorienting, it can be blinding, and prevents you from seeing anything at all for a few moments.
Can you imagine the effect that might have on someone who is just starting to fly an F-35?
It could be catastrophic.
According to the FAA data we reviewed, airplanes flying over Arizona reported 429 laser strikes in fiscal year 2023. They've already reported 232 strikes in the first 3 months of fiscal 2024. In December, 35-year-old William Hill was arrested after pointing a laser at a Southwest Airlines jet, then at a Phoenix police helicopter. He told police he was pointing in the sky, testing how powerful it was, and that he was not trying to point it at any helicopters or airplanes. Hill now faces 2 felonies.
It's probably just a novelty thing. I've got this laser, let's see if I can hit an airplane. And people are ignorant of what the ramifications might be.
Kerry Grant is a retired lieutenant colonel in the Air Force and current FAA Safety Team lead representative.
This is a 1957 Piper Pacer.
We're about to use his airplane to demonstrate what it looks like in a cockpit during a laser strike. I have these glasses that are supposed to be protective for eyes when they're flashed with a laser, so we're gonna put these on. 1 mile away down the runway, another crew is standing by with a laser pointer. What this will do is it'll sort of mimic what would happen if we were maybe 1,000 feet in the air and somebody was in the distance flashing a laser.
We're ready if you're ready.
Wow. Wow. That is bright. So that tiny little speck, that tiny dot on that end is lighting up the entire cockpit on this end.
By the time it gets here, it's blossomed. I'm shielding my eyes with the glare shield. If I was up, it would be blinding. You've lost your night vision when that happens.
Airport officials gave us special permission to do this demonstration. It's a sign of how important the aviation community takes this. What do you think the solution is?
Eliminating lasers, we're not going to be able to do that, but education, and that's hopefully what we can do, is we can educate people that, hey, you think it's just a prank, it has to be taken very seriously.
Back at Luke Air Force Base, where they train new F-35 pilots.
Every week we fly at night, we have one of these occurrences.
Lieutenant Colonel Tyler Smith says he's concerned about what could happen with a less experienced pilot in the cockpit.
I was able to safely land, but it was a factor for multiple airplanes that night, and it could have led to an accident.
At this point, we are on track to double last year's total of laser strikes in Arizona, and last year's total was already a new record.
So, there are these times where do we talk about it too much because then you have copycats, or do we not talk about it enough and then we don't bring awareness to the issue?
Right, and that's the big question. Do you tell people about it
Right.
and then think there might be more? The aviation safety people that came to me with this story at the end of last year said we've gotten to the point where it's happening so much that they need to get the word out about this so that maybe somebody who knows somebody who's doing it, or a parent or a friend, will say, hey, knock it off. This is actually really dangerous, and it's just happening too often.
Did they say, the FAA or any other agency, say whether or not when they do find these people who are pointing these lasers, what their reasoning is behind it?
Usually they don't admit that they were actually aiming. That's from the cases we've seen. But they are arresting these people, and they face felonies. And the people who pointed at those F-35s, you pointed at an F-35, you have to assume that that's the most advanced piece of electronic in the sky.
Right.
Those people are getting arrested.
No kidding. Just common sense. You would just think common sense. But very interesting story. Maureen Love, thank you very much.
Sure.
So we're very appreciative to Morgan for bringing this to the public's attention. And he says it's a very serious situation. We have had pilots and even the control tower down at Sky Harbor has been eliminated with a laser. And one of the controllers on duty did suffer eye damage from having the laser shown at him through the, and of course you think about the cab up there. It is a big bubble. It lights up the whole cab when the laser hits it. Well, Morgan talked about the F-35s being some of the most sophisticated devices in the air, but our law enforcement agencies have equally impressive technology up there. And the Pima County Sheriff Department, who supports the Arizona Aviation Safety Advisory Group with a number of efforts, has shared with me this video, which I'm about to show, and you're going to see a blue laser, which is also very damaging to your eyesight and can cause permanent eye damage. And you'll see them switch to the infrared version of the camera. And when they do that, you'll be able to see the people right next to the truck and almost be able to pick out exactly who has the laser in their hand. And we've redacted the address on this. I'll be quiet and you can listen to the deputies in the helicopter.
Let's get somebody started over here. Can you break away for a laser strike? We're getting hit by a blue laser for about the last 3 minutes. Address is 3461. 3461.
So if you get arrested, you will be charged with a felony. We just had an individual that was arrested in Mesa by the Mesa PD last week. And according to the Mesa PD, they will be throwing the book at that individual. All right, it's time for me to switch gears now, and we're going to start talking about drones, also known as unmanned aerial systems. And if you have any questions on drones, all the data can be found on FAA.gov/UASs. They have information there on how to get started with flying your drone, if you're going to be a recreational flyer, a certificated remote pilot, if you are a government agency, law enforcement using drones in your work, if you're in education and you're interested in using drones in your educational programs, advanced operators. If you need your information in Spanish, they have a section there for you, and also links to the FAA's social media sites and Facebook and Twitter can be found at faa.gov/UAS. One of the things that all drones over 0.55 pounds, 249 grams, is they need to have a remote ID. So how does remote ID? The short clip from the FAA will explain it.
How it works. In its most basic form, remote ID can be described as a digital license plate for UAS. To comply with remote ID requirements, a UAS must broadcast message elements from takeoff to shutdown, such as the unique ID number, location, and altitude of the drone, and its control station or takeoff location. If it appears to be flying in an unsafe manner or in an area they are not allowed to operate, authorized individuals from public safety organizations may request more information about the drone from the FAA. Remote ID is a publicly available broadcast from a UAS that can be received through applications for concerned members of the general public. Those authorized to request additional information may include aviation safety inspectors, law enforcement, and air traffic security specialists. Just as every driver on the road has a license plate, most drone pilots will be required to comply with the remote ID rule by fall 2023.
So law enforcement, aviation safety inspector will be able to tell who that drone belongs to and where it launched from. And then they will be able to ask you for your credentials. You will fall under essentially two areas for flying a drone. There are recreational pilots under 55 pounds with certain restrictions, and probably the bulk of our drone pilots coming out are not recreational. If you are not recreational, you have to comply with 14, the Code of Federal Regulations, Part 107. If you are already a certificated pilot, then you can go to FAASafety.gov and take a course that takes about an hour to go through. And once you pass that course, you send your paperwork into the FAA, and they will send you your plastic certificate. If you are not already a licensed pilot, then you need to find a training provider that you can get this training from. Once you do have your plastic certificate, you need to take recurrent training every 2 years on a course that's available at FAASafety.gov, and keep your certificate along with your plastic certificate with you at all times in case you are stopped by an aviation safety inspector or law enforcement asking if you are authorized to fly that drone. If you are a recreational pilot, first, you must fly for fun only. You cannot get any type of consideration for flying your drone, strictly the enjoyment of flying it. Second, you have to follow the rules. The FAA says you have to follow the rules of an FAA-approved community-based organization, and the FAA has only approved these 4. So maybe the First Person View Freedom Coalition has some of the best rules out there. You do not need to join these organizations, but you need to know what their rules are, and I would recommend printing out their rules. So if you are stopped, you can, if you're asked, what am I doing? Well, I'm following the rules of a CBO organization. Print them out so you know what those rules are, and you can let others know what they are as well. Next, number 3, you need to keep the drone in sight at all times. So it means you can't be flying at first person using the camera from inside the drone. You have to be able to observe the drone at all times from the ground, which means it can't go behind buildings, can't go behind trees. You have to keep it in sight. Next, number 4, you have to give way to other aircraft, and those rules are laid out in the federal regulations. So you need to know the federal regulations as well. Next, you need to fly below any authorized altitude that you have been given permission to fly in. If you wanted to fly next to Deer Valley Airport in their control zone, you can't just call up the Deer Valley Tower and say, we'd like to fly. They do not have the authority to give that to you. You have to request that approval through the low altitude authorization notification capability or on Drone Zone in FAA.gov, and you need to allow up to 90 days to get approval for that authority to fly. If you are flying in other airspace, which is uncontrolled, which we know is Class G airspace, you have to fly below 400 feet AGL at all times. And then you also need to take the recreational UAS safety test, which is known as TRUST, and carry proof of that passage when you are flying. Next, if you register your drone, again, it's not required under 249 grams or 0.55 pounds, you also need to have that remote ID. And do not fly recklessly, which means avoid temporary flight restrictions. TFR, temporary flight restriction, is put up for frequently around sporting events, the baseball stadiums, the football stadium, any large gathering of individuals, and it's also put up for wildfires that we have. We just had a drone that entered the Riverside TFR that was up near Bartlett Lake, and as soon as that drone entered, all the air assets had to leave the area that were being used to fight the fire until that drone left. So if somebody's house is about to burn up, they could have been saved, and it wasn't because the drone entered the area. That's on you. With that remote ID, they will be able to track you down. You will lose your privileges, and you will be charged with a felony for reckless flying of your drone. We also have TFRs that are popping up during the campaign season with our candidates. So please go to FAA.gov, search for TFRs, and know before you go. Next, comply with federal and state and local laws, which sometimes can be rather hard to locate, but I'll give you a resource at the end here where you can find some of those. So there's a lot of restrictions if you're flying recreational on what you need to do. We don't have just recreational pilots out there. We are going to start seeing a proliferation of drones being used by other large companies like Amazon and Walmart throughout the country for package delivery. So I've got a great report from the BBC here, which we will watch on their plans for package delivery around the world.
At Amazon because it's announced it will start to use drones to deliver parcels in under an hour in the UK from the end of next year. The online retail giant says the service will start in one location, which is yet to be revealed. It's already running the service in parts of the United States. Our business correspondent Emma Simpson has been to a small town in California to see how it works.
You know what it's like, waiting for an online order, wondering when the van is going to turn up. But look into the distance. This one's coming by air. In the small town of Lockford, California, Amazon is using drones to deliver packages to customers. This service is coming to the UK too. Jeff loves it.
It's fun. I never thought I'd be getting packages delivered in my backyard. So when you order it, we see it within 20 to 30 minutes. So obviously quicker than having to run to the store and getting this stuff.
What about the noise?
The noise it's a little loud, but it doesn't disturb me.
Mission accepted. Pre-flight check complete. Cleared by all, launching.
So how does it work?
So now the exciting bit.
We're the first to see behind the scenes at Amazon's launch facility. Here's a parcel going out. It can't be bigger than a shoebox, nor weigh more than 5 pounds. The drone can reach customers up to 3.5 miles away. The rules are strict. Each flight is monitored, and there's a human eye keeping tabs on it too. A flying robot that knows exactly where to go.
How does it know not to bump into anything?
So our sense and avoid technology will observe a threat in the sky or on the ground, make a course correction, and safely find a path to deliver to customers.
Drones are never going to replace vans, but this is a glimpse of the future. Online deliveries in just minutes.
And here at this Amazon site in Seattle, a new drone is being unveiled.
This is a drone coming to the UK. It's smaller, it's lighter, it travels further, and it's most importantly at least 40% quieter to our previous drone.
Is that safe?
It's absolutely safe. It is hundreds of times safer than driving to the store.
Just one location to begin with. Exactly how and where it can fly has still to be worked out.
You know, we'll scale slowly, we'll scale with communities, and we'll scale based on what our regulatory approvals are.
Amazon believes the demand is there. Here in America, though, progress hasn't been quick, but it's got big ambitions, aiming for 500 million global drone deliveries by the end of the decade. Emma Simpson, BBC News, Lockford, California.
So 500 million drone deliveries worldwide by the end of the decade, only 6 years from now. Amazon has announced that they would like to start delivery in the state of Arizona, starting out of Tucson. They have not yet received approval for this, but if they do, they anticipate that they're going to be flying within about an 8-mile radius of the Tucson area. Walmart has also experimented with drone delivery, and unfortunately, like our laser illumination events, we have people taking shots at the drones as well. There was a Lake Florida individual who used his 9mm pistol, and actually he was a very good shot because he hit the drone with his 9mm, and unfortunately it did damage the drone. Reckless, because if he'd missed, that 9mm round is going somewhere. He has been arrested and charged with a Class 1 felony. If you have any questions about what it takes to operate your drone, you can go to FAASafety.gov, and this opening page here, the hot topics rotates, so when it gets to have drone questions, click on it and you can go to a drone pro and ask him directly your questions, and hopefully you'll get quick answers from your questions. Well, it's certainly been my pleasure to address the Arizona Department of Transportation on your Safety Stand Down Day. From all of us at the Aviation Safety Advisory Group and the FAA Safety Team, working with our balloon operators, our jump operators, general aviation, corporate, commercial operators, military operators, and increasingly our UAS operators that are out there, please know before you go. Don't be shining lasers at the drones or airplanes. Certainly don't be taking shots at them. And if you have other questions you would like to get answers to, again, all of this information is available free. Here are the QR codes for the Aviation Safety Advisory Group, the FAA, our FAA Safety Team, and I highly recommend my beautiful coworker up at Embry-Riddle, Dr. Sarah Nelson, whose specialty is drone law and drone operations. Her website, sarahnelson.org, UAS-pilot-cert, has a lot of wonderful free information on what you can do with your drone, and she's also got a lot of information on state and local laws. All right, once again, from all of us at ASAG, the FAA Safety Team, thank you for inviting me to the ADOT Stand Down. Everybody have a great day, be safe, and please know before you go.